Our office sent out notifications regarding your academic status around the end of June. Hopefully you received that, as well as this invitation to the webinar. So this invitation to the webinar is exclusively for EOP students. We will be hosting another webinar for all the students in our college that may be on academic probation, but we want to thank you for joining us today. The messaging from our office asked you to take some action regarding advising, and some of you have already had in-person or phone appointments with the dean's office, and maybe you went ahead and met with your major advisor to discuss your academic status. Some of you may have already started using campus resources to support you this summer or to plan ahead for the future. For those of you that haven't yet taken action, that's okay. And if you have already started to take action, good job. We're hoping that today's webinar is going to support those of you that have already taken some action, as well as those of you that are thinking about what should I do next, to give you some ideas to help start these discussions and explore campus resources so that you can start to take some next steps. Maybe on your own you have already decided to make some changes, and we hope that you'll hear confirmation today during this presentation of the great things that you already know or that you're already doing, and also get some additional tools for you to take advantage of this summer. Lastly, we hope that this presentation will also help prompt you to meet with the dean's office again if you have more questions, or to check in with us for the first time if you haven't talked to anybody yet. So hopefully this is just to supplement advising, definitely not to replace advising. And then lastly, summer session 2 starts on August 7th. So there's still time to add courses if you want to take action now. We're going to have some slides later that are going to have a lot of information on them. So have your phone handy to take pictures of those particular slides at the end or throughout the presentation. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. Sorry about that.
So our goals for today, hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will be able to define what academic probation and good standing mean. You will be able to start an action plan or build on what you've already been doing to support you, and identify campus resources and strategies that can help you return to good academic standing. In different parts of the presentation, we will have short polls. As moderators, we will see your responses, but responses are anonymous to other participants. As Lily had mentioned before we started the presentation, there's 2 ways to ask questions. If you use the Q&A function, your question will be sent only to us, the moderators, and you can ask your questions anonymously as well. If you use a chat function, your question or comment will be seen by everyone in attendance to the webinar.
You can choose whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah, doesn't matter to us. We may not answer your questions right away, especially if we know we're going to cover that information later in the webinar, but we'll review all questions by the end of the presentation, and there'll definitely be time at the end of the presentation to ask more questions.
So if you have a question in mind, you can use the Q&A function, and we'll certainly get to it before we finish the webinar, just so you don't forget any of your questions, okay?
So we want to start off by asking, what do you know now? We're going to have a couple of quick polls. So take a few seconds as the polls pop up to answer the questions. And this is just to get a sense of what your knowledge is today. Your response, again, will not be attached to your name. So what is qualitative academic standing? A student is on academic probation for qualitative grades performance when the quarter and or cumulative UC GPA is A, below 1.5, B, below 2.0 but above 1.5, or C, below 2.0. So take about the next 10 seconds to select the response of what you think qualitative academic probation means.
Okay, we're almost there. People are still voting. Okay, just another 5 seconds. Don't worry, you're not going to get graded for this. Take a guess. All right, everybody.
So the answer is B, below 2.0 but above 1.5. So you are on academic probation when your GPA is below 2.0 but above 1.5. If you fall below 1.5, that is considered subject to dismissal, a topic for another day. This is, and Lily, this is number 6.
Okay.
So the next quick poll is regarding minimum progress. So what is the requirement for minimum progress? A student is on academic probation for minimum progress, also known as quantitative, the units requirement, when a student, A, did not average 13 units in a full-time quarter, B, did not pass 12 units in a full-time quarter, or C, did not average 15 units in a full-time quarter. So again, take about the next 10 seconds to choose a response.
And we can't see who answers what either, by the way, but we appreciate your participation, keeping you awake, see what your knowledge is. Okay, good job.
So the response was A, a student who did not average 13 units in a full-time quarter. So minimum progress, the university requires full-time students to complete 39 units each academic year, fall, winter, spring. This is an average of 13 units per full-time quarter. Minimum progress is calculated at the end of spring quarter, and probation is when a student completes 36 to 38 units by spring quarter of full-time, if they were full-time all year.
All right. So if you came to orientation, you probably remember hearing, if you came to orientation or STEP, you probably remember hearing 12, 13, and 15. These unit values are talked about a lot on campus. And so what does this all mean? And it can get really confusing. So just to clarify, you need to have 12 units to be considered full-time. This can impact your financial aid, tuition, and residence hall housing contracts. Maybe some of your insurance or something like that might also require you to be a full-time student. For minimum progress, we talk about the number 13, and that's 13 units on average to be completed during full-time quarters each academic year. And 15 means that you can graduate in a 4-year timeline if you're taking 15 degree granting units towards your degree for 4 years. So 12 full-time quarters times 15 will give you 180 units towards graduation. If you did not complete 39 units during the past academic year and you were full-time the entire time, you may have received this email about the webinar and your probation status because of minimum progress if your grades were above a 2.0 for the entire year. So let's talk a little bit more about academic probation and the different types of probation. So some of you may be on academic probation for the first time in a single quarter, and that's just simply probation. Probation continued is when you have had 2 consecutive quarters on academic probation. So your GPA has stayed between a 1.5 and a 1.99, and you have not fallen below the 1.5 for your cumulative or quarter GPA. Subject to dismissal, and some people call it SD, AD, subject to disqualification. It is a more serious category, and this can occur if your GPA still stays above a 1.5, but now it's been basically on probation for 3 consecutive quarters. There's other reasons why you can be in subject to dismissal status, and certainly we would love to talk to you a little bit more about that status here in the dean's office.
So the key here is consecutive quarters. So if you had been on probation, say your first quarter here, and then did fine the next 2 quarters, but again, the following fall, that resets your probation clock.
That's a good point. And if you are planning to repeat or are currently repeating any D or F grades, you should discuss this with an advisor of the impact of your repeat on your UC GPA. And we always advise students to repeat a UC grade with a UC grade. And there's a lot of details as to why that is. So if you are repeating a D or F grade that you had at UC and you're repeating it at a community college, it might not have the impact that you're hoping for. So please follow up with the dean's office to discuss that. So a little bit more details about minimum progress. Again, it's an average of 13 units per full-time quarter. So full-time quarters, 3 quarters, 39 units each academic year. We measure it at the end of spring quarter. And workload units do count for minimum progress. See the dean's office to talk about the details related to minimum progress. Don't guess about this stuff. That's what we're here for. So we want to help you with strategies to meet minimum progress, using summer school to meet minimum progress. For minimum progress, you can use community college classes in order to make up any unit deficiencies. So if you're not sure, please come see us in the dean's office. It's great to check in with your major advisor, but when it comes to these statuses, please talk to them as well as to us. And if you're not currently in summer school and you know that you fell short on minimum progress, it doesn't mean you're going to get kicked out of school, but we want to talk to you about how to get yourself back into good standing with your units as soon as possible.
So let's look at these numbers again, 12, 13, and 15. Remember that 12 units minimum per quarter to be full-time, 13 units average for minimum progress, and 15 units average if you hope to graduate in 4 years. So when you came to Davis, you came with the expectations of doing well. Sometimes unexpected challenges or situations that are outside of your control can occur. Perhaps the transition to Davis was harder than anticipated. Davis is a large public university and the quarter system is fast-paced. It's not uncommon to feel behind or unsure where to go for help. Anything from study habits, personal and family issues, your financial situation changes, or you become ill or injured can have an impact on your academic performance. Here are some common reasons students have faced academic difficulty. Whether it be a course, too many courses, being away from home, family, personal issues, study habits, time management, or other stuff. So keep in mind, you are not the only one in this situation. You know, students have come to us looking for support and help. And there may be other challenges that you have been facing. So what was the main contributing factor that affected your academics, your grades? Let's take the next 10 seconds to select from the list of what you believe was the main reason your quarter did not go as well as you hoped. And remember, your responses are anonymous.
You can pick as many as you want. We haven't shared the results from the pre-test of your knowledge, but in this regard, we would like to share, again, anonymously. All we see is numbers. We don't see names of the things that were most affecting your academic performance. So already a few of you have said family and your class schedule, time management and other, and actually that seems to be quite the majority of where folks are feeling. And time management, everybody, time management wins. So, and other. So obviously we can't think of every possible thing that might be affecting your academics, but time management is definitely, I'm going to make a note of that so we come back to talk about time management again later. Is that me?
No, that's me.
Oh, that's you.
So you may be wondering, how can I return to good academic standing? To return to good academic standing, you must complete the required number of units for minimum progress and end the quarter with C average grades, so 2.0 or higher. You have the ability to help yourself return to good academic standing, and there are a variety of campus resources to support and help you. It's super important to seek advising so you know your options. Consider the factors that impacted you and any changes you may need to do or plan of action to help you reach your academic and personal goals. Remember, you're not alone in this, and there are so many resources out there and advising options to help you. Something to keep in mind when you are not in good academic standing is you cannot change your major, nor can you change a letter graded class to pass, no pass.
But you can take a pass, no pass class.
So if you were in a PE class or a seminar that was already supposed to be pass, no pass, you're fine.
So this might be a good spot to have your phone handy. We're going to go over some of the academic resources that are available for you. And maybe if you don't have your phone handy, have a little pen and paper available for yourself so you could take some, I clicked something, sorry. So you could take some notes. So there's a variety of campus resources that are available to you. And remember that your student fees are already paying for this kind of, for these resources. So please take advantage of those. So in the Student Academic Success Center, hopefully by now you've been introduced to study skills options, tutoring, success coaching, and success programs like EOP. So the success coaching is something that was new last year, and you can actually meet one-on-one with somebody to go over your strategies for success. Certainly this touches on the time management component. Study skills workshops are offered throughout the academic year, and as an EOP student, you can also meet with an advisor, either a peer advisor or staff advisor in EOP, to go over one-on-one, your time management, your study skills, note-taking, all those kinds of things. In the student health and counseling services bubble here, there's counseling services. Maybe you've never met with a therapist before, or maybe you have and you didn't have such a positive experience, especially like some students have told me that if they were required to go see a therapist, they don't want to go back again. But keep in mind that the services available for you here in terms of counseling services can include career exploration, as well as managing sometimes family expectations. How do you respectfully talk to your family about your interest in a different major outside of what they've expected you to do? So those can be some tough conversations to have, and counseling services can support you with that. Food and nutrition programs, including assistance in filling out the CalFresh option. So I know a few of you had selected other in challenges that affected last academic year. I've talked to a lot of students that food insecurity and just not having enough money for food, that was certainly a challenge for me as an undergrad as well. And I did participate in the CalFresh program when I was an undergraduate student. So I would encourage you exploring that as well through the Student Health and Counseling Services website. Oh, that went back fast, sorry. There it is. And then another piece about success at university is just finding community. These are resources available to you at the Student Community Center. So not only is there a great little coffee shop over there, but you can also go to the AB 540 Undocumented Resource Center, the LGBTQIA Resource Center, the Cross Cultural Center, the SRRC, and then Services for International Students and Scholars and the Women's Research and Retention Center. Those offices are actually outside of the Student Community Center, but we wanted to make sure to reflect those resources are available to you as well to build community on the campus. And just to a side note on the Student Health and Counseling Services, the Dean's Office and EOP have satellite resources available to you. I'll talk a little bit more about what's available to you in EOP, but in the Dean's Office here, in all the Dean's offices, in fact, there is a counselor there from Student Health and Counseling Services here in our office. Her name is Annie Hahn, and she's a tremendous resource for our students. And in EOP is the Community Advising Network, Roxana Reyes, and she is available by email this summer, so you might want to reach out to her as well. So these are great resources to help support your success here at Davis. In addition to that, there's a bunch of advising resources. So here's just a few. Obviously, there's so many that we can talk about. Most importantly, we've already touched on the major and the dean's office, but peer advisors are great, the peer advising counselors in EOP, as well as in the majors in the dean's office, online exploration tools and exploring majors, and the Internship and Career Center. All of those can help you explore majors. If you don't know how to get started on that, that's certainly something that we can talk about again in the future. Undergraduate Research Center, Health Professions Advising, and Pre-Grad and Professional School Advising. Sometimes students place some false expectations on themselves just because they don't know about what's going to make them competitive for the next step. So these are additional resources that you can look at in sort of a working backwards kind of a plan or method. So thinking about the end in mind, what do you need to do as an undergraduate? Okay, is this me? It's still me. So I want to talk a little bit about the Educational Opportunity Program. I was an EOP student as an undergrad, and I was also a peer advising counselor. I didn't go to Davis, but I know the resources and the extended family that EOP became for me. So a lot of times students that have not yet connected to EOP, maybe it's because you didn't know you were in EOP, you don't know where the resources are available, what kind of resources there are. So these are just some of the advising or some of the services that are available. I want to highlight again the counseling. That's the Community Advising Network the acronym, we love our abbreviations, is CAN, C-A-N, Counselor Roxana Reyes, and her last name is spelled R-E-Y-E-S. You can email her at rreyes@shcs.ucdavis.edu. The EOP office website also has her contact information on there. And she's a great place to get started in talking about some of those challenges and how you can start to work more from the inside out to affect your academics positively. And then monetary assistance is also available for cognitive testing. So if you have questions about that, please talk to us in at EOP or here in the Dean's office. So take a picture of this. This is the EOP Cottage. If you've never been there, it's located on the corner of West Quad and Shields Avenue. There's some great study space in there, as well as I think there's a lounge and
microwave fridge.
Oh yeah, the microwave, the coveted microwaves on campus, right? So get active on their Facebook page. Also the guidebook mobile app is another way to get information about services, events, and resources on campus.
They also have a textbook checkout.
Oh, that's right, the textbook checkout.
Hindsight can be 20/20. So, you know, in terms of moving forward and getting out of not good academic standing, reflect back on the quarter and the challenges you might have faced. What could have helped you have a different academic situation? Examples could be using the academic services, changing your study space, participating in a study group. Many times I hear students say, I was studying on my own, I was looking at YouTube videos. And maybe it's time to branch out a little bit. Perhaps finding a better balance between work and school, or a balanced course load. Take less units or less social or extracurricular activities. Whatever may have caused you to reach not good academic standing, it's important to seek advising and review available resources with an advisor. The Student Health and Counseling Services can help with their self-reflection piece, even if you're not in the area. We may be able to connect you to counseling services via phone or even at another UC.
Hey, you know what? Before we go to the next slide, I just remembered that the Chicanx, Latinx Community Resource Center is going to be having their grand opening this fall.
Ooh.
So we didn't talk about those retention centers, and those are also additional places of community.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to get to know more about that, feel free to ask a question later or contact us and we can get you more information. Okay, sorry about that. Back to our show.
Back to our scheduled program. So I want you to think about at least one resource that you can commit to help yourself next quarter or even this summer. How will you ensure that you will use this resource? Consider creating a manageable action plan, keyword manageable, to help you use the resource you selected and any others you feel you could benefit from utilizing. So take the next 10 seconds and think about, what were my challenges? How did I get into not good academic standing? And what's one thing I can commit to help myself either this summer if you're taking classes or for fall quarter?
And let me see. I'm going to look forward to. Okay. When you select your item, write it down. Write it down or remember it, okay? Because I'm gonna mention it in about a slide. All right, so some folks are talking about better balance with other stuff outside of school. And then some folks are talking about study skills improvement, committing to the Student Academic Success Center, going in there and meeting with somebody there perhaps. And then as a reminder, you can also utilize the staff in the Educational Opportunity Program at the EOP Cottage, okay? All right, so these are some great commitments. Okay.
This is your wake-up call, academic probation. Think about framing your situation positively and not staying in the past. What's done is done. You now have a better understanding of how you came to be on academic probation, what challenges you have faced, and what you could have done differently. This is your opportunity to help yourself return to good academic standing and be the successful student you know you are. You earned your spot here at Davis. And you have a partnership in advising and community resources to help you support your success.
So remember that item that you just chose from Anisha's question? I want you to think about creating an action plan. You've had time to think about what happened this last quarter and maybe things that were going on all year and the challenges that you have faced and overcome, to be honest with you. It's time to think about what you can do moving forward. So let's create an action plan and identify community and partners to support you in this plan. And most importantly, you have to write it down. Who's going to hold you accountable and how can you get positioned for success for the fall? Although it may be uncomfortable to discuss your personal and academic challenges, remember that we truly are here as partners. We want to see you be successful. And if you're trying to resolve this, if you have been trying to resolve this all on your own, now is the time to seek support. Allow us to connect you with resources and advising, or perhaps just tell us what your plan of action is, and we can give you the kudos for figuring it all out on your own. And maybe if we do have some additional ideas, we can offer those to you, but perhaps we're able to confirm that you're on the right track. We hear lots of things from students as to why they never come in for advising. Some students are worried about bothering us or wanting to do it on their own, have a certain level of independence. Some students also have a sense of shame and feel like they're letting their family down. Like we said earlier, we are both first generation to college students, Manisha and I, and we know how difficult it can be to navigate the university, and it feels like you're doing it all by yourself sometimes. We also know how difficult it can be to ask for support, given our own experience with our family and cultural expectations. However, please know that you asking for advice or information is not an inconvenience to any of us. This is what we're here for. And we have found that sometimes pride, ego, shame, fear, or even a strong sense of obligation to being independent may hold us back from achieving success. And your goals, if you don't use resources, might be a bit more challenging to achieve. We want to be here to support you, and we encourage you to start to get to know the people, both staff and peer advisors that work in the campus resources we mentioned. You may find an unlikely hero or shero that will be able to help you explore balance and develop tools for academic success. Manisha's laughing at me. If you all could see her, I should put the video back on. So I like the squirrel, Manisha. It's an unlikely hero. So as a reminder, summer session 2 starts August 7th. She's still laughing at me. And here's the website for summer sessions here at UC Davis. Take a picture of it if you would like. We don't have a lot of online classes for UC Davis, but in an upcoming slide, we will list additional UC campus information. Okay, so we're getting close to wrapping up. Hopefully you have some questions that we can answer for you. We just want to do a final poll.
I was laughing at Shiro and the squirrel.
Oh, it's a shero. It could be a shero.
I know. The squirrel really cracks me up. So
I like the squirrel.
I know. So you saw these questions at the beginning of the webinar. So we're going to quiz you again and ask you the same questions. So let's talk about academic probation. Take a few minutes, but again,
Seconds.
A few seconds, sorry. A student on academic probation for grades is when the quarter or cumulative UC GPA is, and take a couple seconds to take a look at the responses, A, B, or C. Take your best shot. Hopefully you remember this information.
Mm-hmm. All right, yay! 100%.
And minimum progress. So a student is on academic probation for minimum progress when, look at the responses for A, B, and C. Take a couple seconds.
Oh, that one was fast.
All right.
100%.
You all know your stuff.
Okay, so take out your phone, this is a picture, or this is a slide of all UC's summer links. I don't know how many of you are in the Davis area, or how many are somewhere up and down the state, or some of you might not be anywhere close to another UC. So a lot of the other UCs have a similar calendar start date for August 7th for session 2. And then as a final note, the financial aid information to attend another UC, there's a link down there. It's fairly long if you try to type it out, but you can go to the financial aid website or the summer sessions website and just type in summer aid, and you'll find the information to be able to have your Davis financial aid help you attend another UC.
I did not know that, so I think that's pretty amazing.
Oh, well, see, we all learned something today. Okay, so, and another opportunity, take a picture of this if you'd like, for our phone number, location. That's Marac Hall there if you've never been to see us here in the Dean's office. And like us on our Facebook page. Our office has a lot of events and opportunities for students to get to know us on a personal level. So, for example, we do pizza with the counselors at least once a quarter, and then our
Coffee with the Dean.
Coffee with the Dean with Helene Dillard. We'll host coffee and some snacks. Pizza with the counselors is my favorite, though. I like the pizza. Yeah. Okay, so we have a question. The first question is, I'm really embarrassed to seek advising to explore majors because of my grades. What do I say to the advisor, and will they talk to me? So this is a common question because when students have not had success in, okay, I'm going to turn, should I turn the, no, I'm not going to turn the camera back on. So when students have not had success in prerequisite courses for a major, so for example, if you were a human development major, but you want to change to food science, but you haven't been successful in chemistry, a student might feel a little bit embarrassed about going to talk to the food science advisor because of the struggles that they've had. But really keep in mind that we're all partners in your success. So going and talking with the major advisor, even if you've struggled in that area of study, can help you understand what the major entails. Are there other majors that might be better suited for you? And strategies for success. And again, coupling that with an advising session with the dean's office on what you've learned, we can also provide you additional questions to ask, different majors around campus, and resources to help you be more successful. So I can understand how that can be really embarrassing, but we're not here to judge you. The advisor's not going to judge you and tell you to go away because you didn't do well in a class. So just seek advising, and if you don't know where to get started, you can email the caseadvising@ucdavis.edu, email there, and we can help you out. Do you want to read the next question?
Sure. So a student is saying that they were on probation for units and are currently enrolled in summer school, but believe they have to take one extra class during fall quarter, and wanted to know if there was any other mandatory course of action that they have to do before starting the quarter.
That's a good question.
I was told this was mandatory during my phone call for advising. So if you came in for an or had a phone appointment for regarding your academic probation status, hopefully the counselor shared with you how many units you were short for minimum progress, and then summer's the opportunity to maybe restore that or ease the load for fall. So depending on how many units it was, maybe summer school is enough for you to just average the 12, 13 units in fall. And if summer isn't, it may be that you have to take an extra class. But in terms of other mandatory actions, if you're not taking, so you're enrolled in summer school, if you are not in summer school at UC Davis, then you would want to be sure that you send official transcripts of wherever you're taking the class to our office. So the address is listed up there. What we do when we receive the transcript is we scan it into your student file and hand walk it over to admissions. So that way you get credit for the class that you took.
And since we can see who asked that question, one of us will follow up with you to make sure that you don't have any remaining questions about what you're doing for the summer and for the fall quarter. I just want to make sure that you don't overload yourself, because sometimes students will, and that happens too, where students fall short one year and they're like, oh, I have to prove it to myself or prove it to my family or prove it to somebody. And so I'm going to take 18 units in the fall. Well, that might not be a good idea. So for the student that asked that question, we will reach out to you and double check on how many units you're going to be taking in the fall to make sure that that's a manageable course load, okay?
And the last thing that I want to clarify is summer is not an academic quarter. So your summer units are added to your fall quarter. So if you're on probation for minimum progress, you will remain in not good academic standing until the end of fall. Rest assured, your summer units will be added in when grade reports are done by the registrar at the end of fall. And if you've taken the appropriate number of units, you will restore your minimum progress and return to good academic standing come January.
Okay, so the next question is, since I am on academic probation, does that affect my financial aid? That is an awesome question, because financial aid is the best office to answer that question. And I say that jokingly only because I appreciate you asking the question, because certainly your academic probation might affect your financial aid depending on each individual student's academic history. So you might hear the term satisfactory academic progress, another acronym, SAP, S-A-P. And in fact, I'm going to type it into the chat, because if you feel like, or if you ever get this notice, satisfactory, I can't type and talk at the same time, academic progress. So if you ever get a message from financial aid about not meeting SAP, it is very important and time sensitive that you follow up with them in its entirety. Sometimes they might ask for documentation, so you want to get the whole thing given to them all at once. So for the student that asked about that, does it affect my financial aid? If I were you, I would just double check, because you are required to complete a minimum number of units and a certain GPA. And so if you let them know, like maybe spring quarter was your only quarter where you completed your 12 units, but you had a 1.9, you want to find out, what are my obligations for fall quarter? Do I just need to have a 12 units and a 2.0? And financial aid requirements may be less. So remember those numbers, the 12, 13, and 15. They're going to require a minimum number of 12, while we, in the academic side, we're looking for a 13-unit average. So for all of you, and certainly for the student that asked, of course, whenever it comes to financial aid, talk with financial aid specifically. And then, just like before we said, come and see us in the dean's office. So you want to find out, what did the financial aid office say about your status, and then double check with us, because they're two different sets of rules, okay? Good questions. And we got another question.
So someone's wondering if they can take classes at a community college, which is, again, another great question. So that answer is a little multifaceted. As long as your overall UCGPA is over a 2.0, yes, you can take classes at a community college. So if you were doing this for minimum progress, absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, just be sure you send your official transcripts into us so that the class can be included on your academic record. If you ever take a class at a community college, you want to be sure that you use assist.org.
Oops, I mistyped it. Sorry, ASSIST.
To ensure that the class transfers over. This time in summer, most community colleges are on the semester system and probably already started because semester schools, their fall semester typically starts mid to late August. So if you were looking to try to take a class now, it may not be possible just because we're into midsummer. But for a future summer, definitely possible. Again, you have to look at when we end in June and when perhaps the second summer session starts for the community college.
Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in. I want to be mindful of your time. We will be sending out a little post survey just to see if you have any suggestions. Tell me how much you loved my squirrel.
Or the minions.
Or the minions. Camp squirrel here. Manisha's camp minions. And okay, so now I'm going to turn the video back on. All right. So there's Manisha.
Okay, I'll get in the video.
So, and this is my messy office. Welcome. So, we can also do Skype advising if you want. And during Skype advising, I do keep the video on. So, but if you aren't in the area, we can meet with you by phone or by Skype advising. We can also use Zoom as a conference call as well if you like this format. And of course, we will follow up with a couple of you that had some questions that we want to make sure that you have the correct information so you know what you're doing for this summer and for fall. And anything else you want to add?
No. So we thank you again for participating. If you have any questions on the confirmation or when you signed up for this webinar, you had both Lily and I's email addresses. So you're welcome to email us. If the question gets a little convoluted or complicated, we may ask you to come on in and make an appointment with us, just so to be sure that we have clear communication and a good understanding of what you're asking. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer quick questions via email, or I might say you need to come in. But you have our contact information. We're in the Dean's office, 150 Marac Hall. If you've seen us before or if this is your first time. Hello.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to end the webinar now, and we did record it, even our silly commentary and laughter, but we did record it, and we might be posting this one or a future one on our website. So keep an eye out for that, okay?
And again, rest assured, names aren't associated with the webinar, so you will be anonymous.
Yep. Nice to see you, or nice to hear from you on the chat. Bye.